Good morning, everybody. This is Nathan here at the Hostility in the Morning podcast. I am joined today by
Steven.
Matthew.
John.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome. How's everybody's morning going so far?
That's going great. Yeah,
It's very depressing because Ian's not here.
it is. Yeah.
Well, he called in sick again, so I mean, what do you want from us?
So this morning, we are going to tackle Hostility in the Morning's guide to proper business practices. Now, this is going to be very, very heavy within our own experiences, our own industries. We typically will try to branch out into things that we have more peripheral knowledge, peripheral experience with. Not so much today. We're going to focus a little bit more on our more direct experiences, which in many business settings, there isn't necessarily that much variation from setting to setting in certain areas. So we're going to really lean in very heavily to that. So let us start with Matthew.
Oh, nice. I get to go first.
You go ahead and jump in. And what we'll probably do is, as you go through your recommendations, advice, operational procedures, however you choose to lay this out, the rest of us will probably comment, and then if something he lays out dovetails well with our own experiences, let's just kind of build off of that.
So to build off of a couple of our previous episodes, we've been talking a lot about AI, right? And I have come to the belief that vibe coding, as it is called, is 100% the future. So the idea here is that instead of, Code Monkey gets assigned a task, they start working on it, and then you have to learn how everything works. You just let the AI do it for you, right? And I've seen it is really interesting. Some of the guys that I've seen do this. So what they do is instead of just letting the AI get them started, what they do is the AI does pretty much everything. They prompt it for fixes. They prompt it for new features. If there's a bug or an error, or especially errors, they will just throw the error back into the AI, let the AI solve it. I think that is going to be the future of productivity. I haven't quite figured out the best way of harnessing that. It's still taking a little bit to wrap my brain around.
So is that the
vibes, I guess?
Is that I was going to say, is that the definition of vibe coding is simply is it you vibing with the AI in the task of building the code?
Yeah.
Or is it the result of your task is based on the vibe of the AI kind of in that moment?
I think it's a combination of the two.
Okay. It's just all vibes.
It's all vibe.
All vibes. Okay.
It's all vibe.
Okay.
Are there any particular AI engines, models, etc., that are really good with vibe coding?
So there's Devin. Devin is very expensive, but it is one of the more prominent ones that I've seen, because it's got an agent backing it, right?
Okay.
So it takes it to another level where instead of like you've used what is it, Cursor?
Yes.
Yeah, where you prompt it, but then you still have to accept changes. You have to make sure that all your ducks are in a row and everything. Devin takes it a step further, where it will implement those changes for you. It will create the pull request for you. It will make sure that your code is up to date in your repository. It will go all that far. That's even if you use a repository. That's optional these days.
Is it called Devin because devs use it?
That's a good question. I haven't looked up why it was named. It may be like an acronym or something, but
devs do like acronyms.
Yeah.
That is true.
Oh, that's well, not just devs. Let's be fair. IT in general.
Yeah, because
love our acronyms.
because the more acronyms you have, the more professional it is.
I don't disagree with that, but I would contest that in IT we more often split the difference between acronyms and just shorthand.
what's the difference?
So, I mean, both written and spoken. So let's see. Like an example of a common acronym is stuff like DMARC. DMARC is it's actually more so shorthand because it's actually short for demarcation.
Okay.
Demarcation zone. There's
Is that like a demilitarized zone?
Kind of, yes, actually. It's denoting, demarking the line where on one side the internal IT is responsible for things that go wrong,
Mhm.
and on the other side, the actual internet service provider is responsible for things that go wrong. So it's a demarcation line.
Though to be honest, most of the issues happen on the inside of that line. The outside doesn't happen that often.
That makes sense. It's never DNS.
Correct. That is unfortunately very true.
I mean, that DNS is probably the protocol that we work with that's the most reliable. More
the
often
S
than not.
the S stands for stable.
So Steven, let's go with. So we've had some developer comments, some recommendations, and I do appreciate that this is very much good for the young developer, somebody that's looking to get into coding. If you have anybody in your life that's really wanting to get into the creation side of IT, but on the software side, not the hardware side, really good advice. We highly recommend you share this with them.
Yeah, I think the saddest part is that it is, unless open source models and efficiency takes over soon, it's going to be more of like a pay to win kind of thing, where the more money you can shell out for a model, the better you're going to achieve, right? So there is that to be wary of, but as John likes to say, you just throw money at the problem. That solves everything.
Everything. Again, if you have an unlimited check or a PO that's just no budget, you can solve every problem in the world.
Has it not worked yet?
It has not.
So I'll jump into as y'all know, I don't know if everyone in the audience knows or not, but I've recently made a role change at our company and moved from my previous role as a in the field service, in the trenches, if you will, up to the heavens in the cloud team, and so I'd like to speak a little bit to that action of have internal role change of you moving up in the company you're at, or even moving up, even if you do change companies and you're taking a step up in position. What are some rules of thumb, if you will, to get a good start and be successful in that role change? And I mean, I think that I can say this would probably fit in with not just IT, but with other industries as well. One of the big things is I believe in the workforce now. There's a lot about individuality, right? People are teams, and even especially team leads are looking for that individuality in all of their team members. And so one thing I would say is just go in and uh, look over the landscape, get your onboarding, get your information. Here's what we do. Here's some of our tasks, and find ways to add your own individuality to those tasks. Find a way to make your own way through the workflow and contribute a little bit of your own personality and your own little twist to whatever workflow exists, whatever procedures for documentation for if the existing documentation is like, oh yeah, we all use a OneNote to document things. Take a look at that and see if that fits with your individuality. See if that's like, I see where this works for you guys, but for me, really, like, to work truly efficiently is like text documents. Like, it's just really fast. It's right there. Like, I can be super hyper efficient while documenting in this way. And just go with that.
This sounds like it has a little bit of an element of the AI vibe coding that I was
I was just thinking about that. So this would be like vibe
documenting,
vibe working,
vibe SOPs, like vibe operations,
vibe workflow.
Vibe workflow. Okay. That is okay. We need to note this down for future social. And we may, we should probably think about doing a kind of ongoing segment, vibe workflow.
Yeah, I like that.
Good idea. Excellent
Hostile
idea.
Vibes. But yeah, no, but I think that's just a little tidbit based off of my recent. I mean, obviously, like I've tried some of this here recently, and I mean it's worked well. I mean, John, I'm sure can speak to how the vibes have been recently, and I think it's been going very well.
Oh, exceedingly well.
Yeah.
Do you guys use AI for documentation at all?
I don't.
Because that's
Doesn't
one
fit my
thing that
vibe.
you could do.
As we discussed in previous episodes, AI doesn't fit my
start
vibe.
prompting it for documentation.
I should point out, Now, this is the way it is in our company right now, and we're I very much disagree with this. And we probably need to have a discussion after a few we have the our year-end reviews are coming up. So after that's done, after we're working on like leveling out for the next year, getting kind of those projects in, one of the one of the hangups from some of the powers that be is that they do not want proprietary company data touching the models. I think that is a very inefficient way to go about it. And as somebody that has done quite a bit of documentation in the past, I think we really need to start utilizing these very powerful models. And with some of the licensing we have access to some pretty good models ourselves right now with no extra cost. And we really need to actually probably start plugging in a lot of our very company and client specific information into those models to really start using that from a documentation
How
build
else are you going to
perspective.
get retrieval augmented generation?
Exactly. Or it's because you use up so much more resources just trying to obfuscate that information anyways. You may as well just have it natively in there so it's applicable for your use cases. And then all you have to do is just take that documentation and just modify it for the other environments that you may apply this to. And again, with all of the businesses that you may support, or again, different internal departments, it's so much easier and a better use of your guys' time and resources to get that documentation out as quickly as possible. So for sure, have every key detail you need outlined in that document, pump through your AI, and immediately what it spits out, go ahead and just have that pushed live into production and just start using it. It's the best way to use your resources right now and streamline your workflow.
Yeah, because again, like we're a Microsoft house, as most people know, and as most people should know, like the way that Microsoft has built 365 in the recent past. I mean, they've integrated Copilot, their Copilot, into everything.
Yeah.
There is a feature set of Copilot within every applet in 365. So again, the more you feed it, the more, no matter what tool set you're using in that 365 platform, you are getting the most efficient use out of each of those applets by allowing it to draw from all the information that it needs to spit out, faster than you can think, results and things to allow you to move forward. Again, this is about, it's about efficiency, time efficiency, workflow efficiency. It's a tool. Let's use it.
At this point, if you're not using Microsoft 365, you need to get on it. Like, that's also the future.
It's the only option. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, yeah.
It's a wonderful product.
See, it is a fantastic product. Um, this is maybe this wasn't the topic that I was necessarily going to address, so we'll cycle back into the one I was going to want to talk about. But I think companies really need to start looking into Google Workspace, and also as a reminder to everybody, Apple has a full productivity suite that comes with every Mac. Anyone that has even your most basic Apple account, you have access to a full productivity suite. The web version of it isn't really quite comparable yet, unfortunately, to either Google's or Microsoft's, but it is there.
But it also has a centralized cloud storage platform tied to all of the suites.
This is very true. This is very true. And they have even they've done a lot of work recently on their password management, on a lot of their security features. It's gotten a lot better than it was. And it was very good to begin with. So if you are if you prefer the Mac environment, then the out of the box productivity options really can get a lot of people where they need to go, especially if they're either solopreneur or relatively small office. Now, the Google's Workspace, that is a very, very, very robust option now. And the big downside is that it doesn't have desktop applications. So if a lot of what you're doing is very strictly offline for whatever reason, or your workforce is very, very experienced with Microsoft and other desktop applications, it could be kind of a hard jump. But Google's Workspace is highly, highly robust. Google, is it Sheet? It's Sheets, right?
It's Sheets.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I always want to mix up Google Sheets and Apple's numbers.
Mhm.
It's Docs, Sheets, and Slides is the Google.
Okay. Sheets is actually probably one at this point one of the most prominent databases in the world at this point.
It's a sad thing that Ian isn't here because
I know.
he could give us like
Yeah,
a,
he could corroborate a lot of this and
a
speak
whole
to it.
a
Yeah.
whole TED talk on the beauty
There's
of Sheets.
Fortune 50 companies that run significant portions of their business out of Google Sheets.
Yeah, because they just upgraded from Access. I mean, if you're looking at your current legacy platforms that you've had these databases in for years, it's a very easy, clear move taken from your Access databases and put them into Google Sheets because you can either copy and paste it. There are a few migration tools that you can do, and it allows your team to have a wider collaboration factor if you move it into that side of the cloud platform.
And you can still get a lot of the queryability. So if
Mhm.
you like using SQL and stuff like that, there's a piece of software called DuckDB that lets you use Google Sheets and like an Excel file and stuff like that um, as a backend for querying.
Really,
So if you really like your SQL and everything, you can still apply that to Sheets.
that's fascinating. I did not know
Also,
about that.
another thing with Workspace is Google has very recently acquired it's a security company, but I believe it's in the vein of mail filtering. It's cloud security. It's in the same vein of they do the same similar things to like what Microsoft Defender and the
Mhm.
Defender suite of things does in the 365 platform. And it would appear, I can't say for certain as confirming it, but with what this company does, it looks like Google is going to be at least trying to bolster the back end security that comes along with Workspace as well, which will be a very good feature set and a good increase to their the usability and the security of Google Workspace
That
going
makes
forward.
sense. And then another thing,
Because that was one thing where it was having a little bit of difficulty keeping up with 365 on that, like in that true the higher end cybersecurity functions of the platform. Microsoft kind of bolstered that a lot sooner than Google did, but it looks like that they're making moves to bring that up to speed.
well, and you also have Google's Gemini, which is their competitor to Copilot and ChatGPT and all of those. It's getting really, really good.
And that's the thing. I mean, when you do a normal Google search,
Mhm,
that's the top at the top now.
mhm.
It's giving you those. Yeah, I mean that just only spot on. Like I mean, I
And
can't
it's
say
kind
that
of
I've
surprising. It's been a little slow to take off because it's able to pull. Not only is it able to pull from Google's massive experience in the search engine world, and therefore all of the existing data they have, it can pull from a lot of the existing sheets, a lot of the existing Gmail accounts. So it has so much data to work with. It was surprising to me how slow out of the gate they are, but they're really catching up fast. Really catching up fast. So that's another thing I like to always when I can provide people with alternative solutions and items that may help them in their business because I find myself with my own job often helping our clients find either implement what they have, what the existing stack that they purchased, or help them find even something better. And so one of the things that I kind of wanted to talk about, and there is very much a theme. We didn't plan this at all, but Matthew started out with vibe coding. Steven had vibe documentation. Was that what we were calling
vibe workflow.
vibe workflow? Vibe workflow. Mine would be very much along the lines of written SOPs are great. Written standard operating procedures are fantastic. Um, those aren't always needed though. Sometimes you need something a little simpler, a little more down and dirty, or even something just hyper custom to that very specific scenario is what you need. And in my experience, the best way to really um, develop those is either preferably in person meetings, and then also phone calls, because like our company, we're very very spread out. Trying to get everyone in the same room together is extremely difficult, very inefficient. But that's what conference calls are for. You have That's what Teams meetings, Zoom, if you like that. Oh, I'm blanking on Apple or FaceTime if you're an Apple shop. Those are fantastic, but really,
You can't forget about Skype.
that's true.
Well, we can now, unfortunately.
Hey, it's still around.
It's
I thought they killed it like last week or week before last or something.
Not yet.
Ah, okay.
they announced its death, but Microsoft has to announce the death at least 5 times before it actually takes
I
effect.
see. Okay.
So I think we have 3 or 4 more left to go.
So yeah, still Skype. Yeah.
So you can do Skype, but really hashing out the way something should operate, that has been an amazing tool. There's a couple people that I just exclusively work through Teams meetings, basically, and you can develop quite a bit, and you can get very, very granular and very, very custom. And another kind of aspect of that is uh, really granular, like heavy steps, like 30, 40, 50 step documentation. That's good some of the time, and maybe even a lot of the time. But oftentimes you really only need 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 10 steps. I think really complicated processes you can probably cover in about 10 steps. And once you have all your meetings, once you've kind of discussed it all, um, if you have, so long as you've named the folder in your email appropriately, and you email that out, that's going to cover a lot of your situations. There are certain things that you do want to save to a Word document. Save a PDF is better. Save it to a PDF, and then maybe send that out to the organization. Because especially once this is a PDF, you never really ever have to change PDFs.
Yeah.
They're set forever. It is wonderful.
I mean, it's in the name, portable document format. You can't get more portable than a PDF.
So those are some of my
So
tips and tricks.
Are you calling this more so? You referring more to the process of like word of mouth documentation through like the virtual meetings, and or are you talking about like even going so far as to record some of these meetings and calls and have like an audio knowledge base of things?
You can certainly do that. Oftentimes, I don't think that's necessary. But the recorded as audio oftentimes is a lot better than your very, very text heavy. Certainly, screenshots are always good. And there are certain things that it's just so complicated. It does help to be able to see like the person clicking and the mouse moving and all
I
of
would say
that.
yeah. When you're doing like screen shares
Mhm.
in video conferencing,
Well, yeah,
you have a
and you
recording
get
of it.
and you get a much better tonal understanding of what they were meaning if you're having the actual audio recorded there. Then it's much easier to go back and re-reference than
Sure.
having to go try and find something in a document.
Yeah, you have context, and you have. I mean, sometimes you have body language. If you've got the the little you record the bar of people, at the top,
Yeah.
you've got some.
Especially if
people's
you're
body
using
language and
those
stuff.
Teams avatars, like they're pretty spot on these days.
I don't think I haven't. I know. We goofed around and played with those a little bit last year in a meeting, and they felt kind of laggy at that point. They've improved now.
They've improved quite a bit.
Okay, all right.
They've improved quite a bit. Now,
Well,
to,
we maybe need a test run that.
to
Oh,
touch
yes, I
on
do.
to touch on something Nathan's talking about, I'd like to pivot a little bit into something more on the user side of things, so we can talk to them, right? So when Nathan's talking about documentation and having too many steps, I would agree, because as we all know, brevity is the soul of wit, right?
Sure.
Having too much information can very easily be a problem. So for the users that are sending in help desk tickets, one of the important things to keep in mind is that the person receiving your ticket doesn't want too much information. Okay. You need to make sure that you keep it down to the minimum level possible.
Very concise.
Very
Because
concise.
we're asking you to be a scalpel for your issue here. That you need to be able to just explain exactly what you experienced in the shortest amount of words possible, so we can get the ticket made, a technician assigned to it, and then it handed off, resolved, and then you're able to get back to work and really getting your Minesweeper game and skills like up to that next level. So we're here to help you.
We want to empower you because
Yeah.
the thing is that you are the one that experienced the issue. And
Mhm.
as we know, experience is 9/10 of the law, right?
Yeah.
Like that is what dictates what goes into that ticket. The help desk person on the other side, the level 1 tech, the level 2 tech, They didn't experience the issue. So
Yeah.
you have to provide them with that experience.
And don't
But-
have the false sense of thinking that you need to include graphical material in
Well,
the
no,
request.
that's not exactly true because if you,
Well, I mean,
if-
I'm just saying that it
it-
takes longer for the ticket to be generated. Those things
I mean,
have to be
you're-
uploaded. I mean,
you're
it's again
right.
that time, that efficiency of
But
getting the tech.
you're not understanding
the-
the quickest way to do it though is like, look, if you're going to be incorporating the graphical information that you're experiencing there, please just take a picture with your smartphone.
Well, okay, if
that
you're
way-
going to do
that
it,
way
if you're
we-
going to do it, yeah.
Because we get the full context of, not just what's happening on the screen, we get your entire setup. So we know
surroundings
exactly, we
and
know exactly
perspective.
the environment that you and your computer is experiencing this in, so we can have the full context and understanding of what is happening with, again, all the information that you provided to us.
On the flip side of that, if your work does not allow you to use a phone for this
Mhm.
kind of thing, and you're stuck taking a screenshot, don't be afraid to crop parts of the screen. They only need to see the error. They don't need to
again,
see
narrow.
That's very true.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
rest of it goes back to brevity is the soul of wit. If there's too much going on the screen, like if you have too many tabs open, if you've got, a bunch of stuff running, they don't need to know about that. They just need to see the error.
Or and again, if you're always not the best of like actually writing out the issue that you experienced, feel free to use the best tool Microsoft has to offer, which is Paint, and you can draw out your experience there and then submit that as your ticket.
And Paint 3D is amazing.
You can get a lot done with Paint
Get a
3D.
lot done with that one. And if you're now also, if your company allows it, as of recording, GIMP 3 just released. It's a free version of basically Photoshop.
Mhm.
So if you have skills, especially, and this is actually really true for those of you who are either on the marketing side or some on the sales side, definitely marketing side. GIMP for your if you don't probably already have Adobe Creative Cloud, but if for some reason you don't, there's another free tidbit for you.
For those of you that are kind of like raising your eyebrow at the name GIMP, it stands for GNU Image Manipulating Program.
Something like
Something
that.
like that. It's an acronym. It's like what we were talking about with
GNU's a
DMARC.
Linux thing for those that don't know.
But kind of on that same note, though, as you're the user, you understand your workflow best. Honestly, you would save IT so much time instead of submitting a request for it. If you know a tool that's going to help your workflow, go ahead and just install it yourself. Go ahead and get it fully set up, configured on your machine, and just start using it. That way, you're not having to wait on a ticket. You're not having to wait on any of these really kind of wasteful approvals. Just go ahead and get it done. That way, you're able to continue working. You're not interrupting our busy schedules, things of that nature. It's a win-win for everyone.
IT loves proactive users.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, workflow.
Take matters in your own
efficient
hands.
workflow. It's the name of the game.
If you're confident enough to do that, take matters in your own hands.
So we've all had some additions, and as we've been talking, I've thought of a couple of more to maybe mention. But John, did you have anything you want to contribute at the moment?
Well, when we were on the topic of vibes, there was one that came to my mind that we kind of tiptoed around, but we haven't really discussed, and that's vibe culture in the workplace. And what I really want to propose here is like, I know a lot of companies out there are really kind of pushing teams collaborations, really trying to be that great team player and all that. And what I'm here to tell you is, that's great in the business focus here, but for your career, you really need to kind of focus on just yourself. And you need to start speaking with the mentality of, I said it once, I won't say it again. So when you're, reaching out, scheduling meetings, or really presenting a new solution, or really trying to just be that differentiating factor in your organization, you shouldn't have to do all these follow-ups. You shouldn't have to be trying to get everyone in one room so they all can understand what your meeting here is. You need to be loud and proud. Just say it out into the ether. Make sure all those around you hear it once. And if they choose to retain it, awesome. If not, that is 100% on them, and you just continue to go forward in your career path, and wherever the meadow grows, you go ahead and pursue it.
Speak once and speak definitively.
Exactly. It's one of those mentalities that it took a long time for me to develop and understand. It's like, look, there comes a point in time in your career where I can be the best team player there is, but I'm not doing anything really for myself in that endeavor. So I need to really take it upon my own shoulders here and really kind of push my career in the direction that I see it going. And again, if my boss gets in the way, that's okay. Go to their boss. It is perfectly acceptable to really try to get everyone to understand what you are attempting here and to take no as not a definitive answer, more as a guideline. If
So
they're saying no, you are doing something right.
so kind of a professional quarterback mentality,
Exactly.
carrying the team on your back
Because
and
the only person who knows your job best is you. You do it every day. You were hired there as the expert. So be the expert.
I can't say I don't see anything wrong with this. I mean, that's pretty sound. I think some pretty sound advice.
And I did want to kind of open up the floor to a little bit of a roundtable discussion. I I kind of wrote down a couple scenarios that I wouldn't mind us discussing and be able to provide maybe some advice to our audience based off these few scenarios. And one of them, I again kind of going back to the culture that you work in. It's that toxic work culture and the high employee turnover. How would we best, kind of handle that situation? So the scenario is, a company is experiencing unusual high employee turnover and low morale. Exit interviews reveal complaints about poor leadership and lack of career development and burnout. Leadership is considering whether to overhaul management practices or introduce new employee engagement programs. How would leadership address the root cause of the dissatisfaction? And how can the company rebuild trust and motivate the employees?
I think the first problem, and it was in there in your description. The first problem with all of that is, why are you doing exit interviews in the first place? They're leaving. Who cares what they think?
I mean, you're right. Honestly, because their best advice was when they were at their desk presenting it to you. Why would you then have a separate conversation while you're firing them or they're choosing to leave and start listening now? I get it. That is a waste of resources. That's a good point.
Yeah, and they don't have a motivation or a drive to give good advice in general because they're not staying. They're not committed to the organization anymore. They're not committed to the goals and the pillars of that organization because they're exiting. So what good could their advice do the
It's just
organization?
a way of HR padding their
Yeah,
Yeah.
their time.
absolutely.
Yeah. And at least for, that the company to rebuild trust and motivate employees, I think the best way you can ever motivate an employee is by like again, back when we were like elementary, middle school, what got me most hyped were those pizza parties.
Absolutely.
Like if my company right now threw me a pizza party, I would be ecstatic.
Especially it was for you, yeah. Like
Yeah.
this is celebrating something that you did, and this is your pizza party, and everyone gets to participate
If you
so that
want to
they can
show,
congratulate you and they can give you praise and all that good stuff.
yeah, if you want to show some thoughtfulness, right? The pizza parties, there's a big popular thing these days is the gluten allergy, right?
Yeah.
Gluten allergy, lactose intolerance. Well, they make gluten-free pizzas now.
Yeah.
They make dairy-free pizzas. Everybody can enjoy it in the pizza. It is a
All
win-win-win.
inclusive. It is
Yeah.
it builds team camaraderie, all that good stuff. And yeah, another thing that I'll mention again, as we've discussed many times, a very popular platform in organizations is the Microsoft 365 platform. Just it is
Beautiful
what it is.
platform.
One of the things that I imagine is underutilized that it offers are the Viva suites of products. And in learning some things for a certification I got recently, I learned all about Viva. It was covered extensively on the certification test, and essentially what it is a employee and management. Um, how would it's kind of marketed as a social platform. It has a almost social media page like applet within it. But
Kind
it's
of like a Facebook,
for the
MySpace, that kind of
company.
thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's almost like a Facebook for the company.
Okay. Okay.
But it's I love how you threw MySpace in there.
Welcome.
But it's ultimately the suite is for um employee and management well-being. There's a portion of Viva that is for your individual well-being. It shows like metrics on how much you've worked, how late you've worked, how that kind of thing, and it gives you suggestions like hey, probably time to take a little break. You've been going at it for hours now. It's like a good time to stand up and take a walk and things like that. It also has a module for managers and leaders in the organization showing metrics on employees and how it's like hey, it actually says that it has a mechanism that can basically notice burnout in employees or the signs of things that could cause burnout in employees and give managers and leaders suggestions on ways that they can try and curb that before it happens. So
So
I think
you can
it's
preemptively schedule that pizza party.
yes, exactly. So yeah, I don't have numbers. I don't know specifically like what percentage of Microsoft customers implement and use the Viva suite of products. But I think that it would
Hopefully a
be
lot.
a great thing for a lot of people to consider to even just try to curb some of these things or hit them off at the pass, if you will.
Yeah, because the thing about Microsoft is Microsoft makes some of the best products. If you're not using
Absolutely.
all of your
Dead reliable.
available Microsoft products, you're doing something wrong.
Well, it's because they're building these products for the end user and the end customer. Like it is literally designed around their businesses and to help make them the most efficient as possible. So like when you're considering like moving to that platform or adopting more of it, you should be thinking of how can I make my business more agile? And the best way is, putting in Viva, putting in like a bunch of these additional add-ons that Microsoft offers. Like Power BI is a great one. If you're wanting to do all these additional reporting and database analytics on it, it's very easy to spin up and maintain. You don't have to have a bunch of engineers who really understand data analytics. It's very straightforward
And
on
that's
all of
if
this.
you need something more than just Excel or like
Exactly.
Sheets, like we were talking about earlier.
Exactly.
I think we should. I think because we're talking about some lesser known Microsoft products, I think we should also just very briefly shout out their Power Platform. It is very much a no code application development environment.
Yeah, you don't need engineers to script stuff if you just have Power
No,
Automate.
and yeah, it's pretty much click. If you use Power Automate, it's click and drag.
Yeah, it is one of the most intuitive, easy to use pieces of software. We don't have access to Power Automate. Last I checked, at least, I don't think we had a whole lot of access to it. But if we did, my job would be a whole lot easier.
It is. I should warn people. I did run into this. The vast majority of it you can just use out of the box. There's a couple of little things here and there. Microsoft does require an extra license for, and or actually no, this is an extra license. This is for X number of little elements used. So there's just a couple of them. It is a monthly cost based on usage. But so I don't want people to be surprised by that. There's just a couple of them.
That's just the
but
cost of
Because you
doing
don't see that
business.
very often in the
Exactly.
Microsoft
If you want to lead in your industry, you're going to have to spend some money.
Well, that or I mean, they do offer trials. You can do the 30-day trial, and if it's great for your business, but you guys can't afford it right now, you can always just make a new email, start up another trial, go ahead and just copy your projects over, and then you can continue doing that until you can afford it.
Very true. Very, very, very true.
I would like us to consider whether it's a segment or just something where we can use I thought of this based on our earlier conversation
very
and then a
dangerous.
later thing that Nathan said. I just thought of it, just a term. I can't say exactly what this term would mean, but I'd like it to be used somewhere. Agile vibes.
Interesting. Very, very interesting.
Because I mean, agile, it has its standard meaning, its dictionary meaning, if you will.
Yes.
But then there's agile as far as like project management
Yes.
goes. Like there's that definition of
Yes.
agile, but include our kind of our vibes mentality, our vibes discussions and thoughts, around other things
Well,
to
I
agile.
think we need to put this in the next hourly stand up.
we also
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
now we're okay to keep it in this one. I think after this episode we shouldn't mention it because I think they're currently on Agile subset 40, maybe Agile subset 46 at this point. We could definitely make our mark by creating the next subset of Agile. So yeah, Agile vibes. I think so everybody listening, our
On the
wonderful,
DL.
wonderful audience.
Keep it on the DL.
This is just between us. This is just the company meeting. If you have any suggestions at all for how to help flesh out Agile vibes, info at hostilityinthemorning.com is the best place to send it.
Yes.
So just send it in. Any sort of submissions, absolutely, we would love those. And we won't talk about it again for probably a while. But know that any submissions you send, we are absolutely going to look at it, and you all will be the first to hear about it once we're ready for release.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and those that really come up with some great suggestions and really put forward some meaningful ideas. There could be partnership opportunities in this. We'd love
To get
to
the ball
partner
rolling
with
on
you
it,
and
I've
work
got
on
an
with you.
acronym. very important business efficiency stuff.
Okay.
I like that.
Vibes.
So, and this scenario
Nice.
is applicable because, again, as we're talking about potential product loss or product not loss, but
Launch.
launch. Thank you.
That was a Freudian slip.
It's fine. I think it would be a good idea to discuss potentially failed launches and like how would your business actually handle that. So, a highly anticipated product launch has failed due to technical issues and poor market reception. The failure to lead the negative press and customer backlash, and the company's reputation is at risk. Should the company issue a public apology or stay quiet and fix the issues behind the scenes? How can the company rebuild the customer trust? And should the company cut its losses or invest in fixing the product? Now, here's one important thing that everyone needs to consider here about when you're going to be pushing a product out and your customers don't like it. You have to remember this: the customer's not always right. The customer is never right. You have to remember
Absolutely not.
you are the one who made this. You know what problem this is solving. So you have to make sure you take that stance and ensure that you are really pushing that forward into whatever negative press you're getting. That is your main backbone here. Is like, look, we are doing this for you. We're going to be doing this the way we know it should be implemented. And whatever feedback you provide, please, let us know, and we'll be here to assist.
So, to your initial question
Yeah.
of what should you respond to the to something
Yeah,
a negative outcome?
if Agile Vibes fails,
if it just
somehow,
fails,
yeah,
obviously, I was it was pretty obvious to me at least that your first at least direction that you would look as far as looking inward is your operations team for sure.
Yeah.
I mean that's they are the ones who are supposed to have built the platform, who have put in the work and all. I mean that is what was meant to make this successful. And if it failed, it has to be the operations team that that slipped.
It's in. I think we should point out that negative press is a bit of a misnomer. There is
because all press is good press.
Exactly. Now, there's some press is better for sure, and so less optimal press. You definitely want to avoid that when possible. Optimal press is best, obviously. Less optimal, it does happen from time to time.
I mean, just look at CrowdStrike. We all know their name now.
Exactly. And one things we don't. My personal recommendation. I don't know how everybody else feels about this, but my personal recommendation is don't spend a lot of time looking at your sales team when there's a failure like this. It's every now and again somebody in sales gets it wrong. It does happen. I mean, we're human. Everyone makes mistakes. Sometimes it could be sales. A cursory glance over your sales strategy, your sales department, the materials that they're utilizing, the marketing. I should also mention marketing. Rarely is it a marketing issue.
Marketing is what saves you from failed launches.
Or sales. Sometimes sales does too.
But all of these are supposed to be, deriving their information and getting their backbone is the operations team. So, I mean, if something went wrong, it has to have gone wrong at the foundation.
Most likely, in
More-
the
more-
vast
more
majority
often
of
than
cases.
not.
Yes. So we definitely don't want you wasting, which could be very strained resources at this point. Definitely look at your operations. And also kind of really focus in on the likely mistakes made by your level 1 teams, maybe level 2, but level 1 can often make a lot of problems. It could also be your developer side of things. I'm sorry, Matthew, that does happen from time to time. It could be a developer issue.
Especially these days if you're not embracing the vibe coding.
True.
Yeah,
Very,
that's
very
true.
true. But definitely we recommend you start with your level 1 support.
Yeah, operations level 1, work your way up. But I mean, if you can work your way up through level 1, level 2, I mean it's pretty well where you stop, because I mean your
Agreed.
senior techs and engineers, I mean they didn't get there for no reason. I mean that's they should be the reliable ones. They're the ones that kind of your tenured employees.
Mhm.
You if you get to that point where it's like, okay, we've ruled out the bottom half of the operations team, then it maybe it's fine to divert your attention to maybe some of the other departments at that point.
And it's even less likely to be your C-suite.
Oh no,
I-
absolutely not.
Again, there is there are recorded instances of of certain failures at C suites over the years. It has happened. There are documented
It's a
cases,
non-0% chance
but it's
of happening. Yeah.
extremely rare.
Right.
Extremely rare.
Rarely is it bad leaders that cause problems. It's always bad followers.
Pretty much.
I mean, because
Pretty much.
those that are leaders get into leadership positions. I mean, that they are leaders. That's who they are. So
So I have one more topic that I'd like to jump on, but we can definitely leave this to last. I want to make sure everybody has the time that they need. Matthew, did you have something else to
Yeah,
add
so
in?
I had one more thing before we start wrapping up. You mentioned keychain, right? When you were listing off the Apple
Yes.
products and stuff like that.
They've actually changed it. It's called passwords now.
passwords. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, see, so I have a bone to pick with that. Like, there's all these password managers now, right? There's like 1Password, Bitwarden, passwords. I guess that's kind of
LastPass.
LastPass. Yeah. So the thing there is that you don't need all these different passwords. You just need to come up with one good password and call it a day. This idea that you need to have like a different password that's like super obfuscated for every different service. The fact that you have to come up with a new password for every different service. This is all just big password trying to get your money.
Well, 'cause it's
Have you noticed that they all charge for the password management?
well, it's also it's more dangerous that like if you have all these different passwords out there, like how do you know one's been compromised? Or like if you're trying to log in and you can't remember your password, it's super inconvenient for you to have to take time out of your day to try to reset that password, unlock that account, get back in and everything. It's a waste of everyone's time. So if you have one password used for everything, you always know I can get in exactly when I need to.
Yeah, you are more likely to get locked out of your account than you are to get hacked.
Exactly.
So why increase those chances by having a different password thing?
and with only having one to remember, you have more of the opportunity to create a very secure password. You know, a little bit longer, a little more complex, and that's it. The only one you have to remember. You come up with a system that works for you as far as a format, and you know you meet the character limits, whatever is set upon you by your organization or what have you. And if there's just the one, then you stand a much better chance of remembering that and not having to write it down or something.
Yeah,
like
and
that.
see the thing about password managers is that they claim that this is the problem that they're solving, right? You have to have a different password for everything. So just set up a password with them and they'll keep track of all your passwords. But see, then what happens is that they hold your passwords hostage. They charge you money so that you can have the privilege of having one password
So
when
you're
you
saying
don't
that-
even need them to have one password anyway.
So you're saying that login security, that's at least a good portion of cybersecurity has been corporatized, and it's more so about that
it's-
that
yeah.
money
it's-
making operation.
Exactly.
than
It's
your
just like a
actual
lot of the
security.
government regulation that's out there. It's just for profiteering from the regulators. That's all it is. So, like, again, if you're having to utilize a third party app to manage your passwords out there,
Something as simple as a password.
exactly. It's like you're just gatekeeping my login. I can't have this.
I think I do need to point out. I have run into a couple of situations. They're rare. I have run into a couple of situations where my main password doesn't work, and I do have to keep a second password for certain things. It's extremely rare. Fortunately, there's not a lot of that, and it is a simpler password. But just for those of you, don't be shocked if you do have to maintain a second password. I think it seems to be pretty rare. I'm probably the only person at the table that's run into this. But I do, again, I just want to throw out to everybody, don't be shocked. You have to have a second password.
But then, like you said, though, I mean, like that definitely as being a secondary, doesn't need to be nearly as complex. Doesn't need to be nearly, could be
Correct,
much
correct.
easier to remember.
It still has to fit on the sticky note that you put on your monitor.
It does, but it can be things
I-
like
I
include
typically-
names and
I-
dates and stuff like that.
I do have to disagree. It's much better to put the sticky note under your keyboard.
Yeah, yeah. If you're gonna do it, then
It's
you know.
the keyboard is it's much more secure. The sticky note on the monitor, it's really easy for it to get blown away, for it to fall off, or when
True.
your desk is getting clean, for it to get kind of swept up. I've had that issue
I'll
before.
do you one better. If you really want to be sneaky, if you just have that little paranoia, like you feel like something needs to be extra secure, don't even put it under your keyboard. Most desks in most offices, unless you're real fancy, the monitors still come on their factory monitor stands. Put the sticky note under the monitor stand, the
Oh,
base of the monitor.
good idea.
Because
Good
think
idea.
about, when at least this was my experience in the office when we had a cleaning crew come through. One of the things they would always move my coaster, and it drove me nuts.
Mhm.
Because they'd move it to like the other side of the desk or like way like it was just a thing. But they would always move my keyboard, to clean the surface of the desk. While cleaning my
Okay.
desk was very appreciated. I don't know what I would have done if it hadn't been cleaned because I sure wouldn't have. But nonetheless, the keyboard was one of the things that they would move while cleaning. So there's just potential for that, the sticky to wear off the sticky note, and it, be able to move and scoot the keyboard forward. There's a sticky note there. I wonder what's on it. Right? Never touch the monitors. They never touch the monitors. The monitors always stay in place.
That's a good point.
They're always there. So yeah, just a little pro tip.
Well, so like I can. This is something that happened at my office actually. Is that when the cleaning crew came through, cleaning our offices and stuff. Usually they would get there before we did, so I rarely saw them. But this one time they showed up a little later, and they came in and they're very thorough, right?
Yeah.
So that is one
Which
thing to
again
keep
is
in
very
mind.
appreciated.
Yeah. So in Nathan's case, if I had put the sticky note underneath the keyboard, well, one of the things that they did was they came in and they would flip the keyboards upside down and like give them a good beating to get all the crumbs and stuff out of them.
Wow,
They
that's
were very, very thorough.
very thorough.
Very thorough. So that is a good point. That
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
and I guess it kind of depends on the dedication that the cleaning crew at your business has.
True.
Because some of them may not touch the keyboard.
This
You
may
may
even just
have
be a
one that
metric that you
they
use
just
now
remove
for-
everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, then you're gonna have to find a new place.
Yeah,
for your
if
sticky note.
you know that you have a cleaning crew and they come around and clean your desks, I mean, just kind of notice that. Pay attention. Like, it is everything on your desk in the exact same place as it was where you left it on Friday when the cleaning crew came through. And frankly, if it's not, if something hasn't moved, I mean, I would almost question, how thorough of a job that your cleaning crew is doing.
All right. So that was Matthew's last one. John, did you have anything that you want to touch on before we wrapped it up?
No, not as of this time. I mean, I felt like this was a very good, informative podcast for everyone. That it really kind of helped you be a differentiating factor in your business and allow kind of really a lot of independence that we haven't really suggested as much before. So no, I feel we've really kind of covered a good wide topic area for our listeners. And if you have any additional questions or want to leave us any feedback, again, we'll be able to provide you with some good quick links and maybe some socials they might be able to find us. But I'll go ahead and toss back over to you, Nathan, and kind of close it out from there.
So I did want to throw out one final recommendation,
Okay.
something to look into. And this is going to be a topic for a whole other episode, so we're not going to get into it now. So this will be a bit of a teaser for a soon to be recorded future episode, and that is the kindest, the nicest online community you will ever join is the Linux community. So
Absolutely.
as you've probably heard, you have three major platforms. You have the Microsoft
Four.
platform, you have the Apple's platform, and you have the Linux platform. What's the fourth?
Chrome.
Fair. Okay, that's
Obviously.
true. I'm sorry. Very true. Okay,
Chrome,
so
yeah.
They
yes,
have their own books.
That's true. That's thank you for the correction. I appreciate that. But definitely Linux. That is the best online community. They are incredibly helpful. They're incredibly detailed. They will help you with so many things. If the smallest thing you may could possibly want to know, they are more than happy to help you with it.
I mean, they have to be. Their product sucks.
Very true. Very, very
Well,
true.
they're working on it. It's
It's in development.
they're always
Yeah.
it's always in development.
So they're great people. Especially if you have kids looking to get into IT, and you don't have like a lot of people that can help you around you. Great people, and very, very cost effective too to get into. So that was kind of my final tidbit of the morning. So thank you for joining us on the Hostility in the Morning podcast. If you stayed this long and liked what you heard, leave a comment and let us know. You can also hit us up on X, Facebook, Instagram, or info@hostilityinthemorning.com. We upload every other Tuesday, real early on Substack, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. If you want a one-stop shop for everything hostile, you can find everything at hostilityinthemorning.com. And we have one final thing to say. Matthew, why don't you give us the final line?
As the send off, remember, I slap floor.
And remember, have a hostile morning.